Discover how an unexpected babysitting job transformed her life and led to a millionaire's heart. Emily sat at her small kitchen table, the light from the window casting shadows over her scribbled sketches. They were lifelines tossed into the abyss of her post-college reality, reminders of the artist she aspired to be. Yet, surrounded by bills and the ever-looming specter of student loans, she felt strangled by the weight of mediocrity. Her dreams felt distant, mere echoes lost in the bustling streets of Chicago. The city buzzed with ambition, but for her, the only sound was the empty silence of disappointment. It was in this haze of uncertainty that a last-minute call came through. A babysitting job for a wealthy corporate attorney. Mark's voice over the phone was confident, familiar with commanding a room, yet all Emily could focus on was the vast difference between their worlds. But necessity made her accept, viewing this as just another step to make rent. As she walked to their plush, upscale neighborhood, unease curled in her gut. She had a fleeting worry: what if this job consumed her? But the excitement of seeing youthful wonder through Mark's spirited daughter Ava flickered like a candle in the fog of her despair. The first few days were a strange blend of challenge and joy. Ava was a whirlwind of energy, spontaneous and vibrant. She wanted to paint, to explore, to create, everything Emily longed for yet felt she could no longer achieve. Each brushstroke Ava made bridged a gap within Emily, igniting old dreams buried under the weight of reality. But as she adapted to this new routine, she became aware of a disconnect. Mark, with his corporate ladder ambitions, hardly glanced at the bond forming between his daughter and the mere babysitter. Emily's heart ached with the knowledge that she could be a guiding force for Ava's creativity, yet fear gripped her. Could she really challenge the child's father? Mark was ensnared in a world of career-driven ambition where morality often bent, and it felt futile to rip through that veil. Yet a specter of dread loomed. She overheard a conversation that hinted at a promotion tainted with unethical conditions. A sudden thickness filled the air, the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As fireworks of ambition and morals erupted within her, Emily wrestled with contradictions. Did she want to protect Ava's creative spirit while also risking her own burgeoning connection with Mark? The stakes heightened with every passing moment. Each layer of her own artistic desires felt intertwined with Mark's impending decision, elder duties forcing her into roles she wasn't ready to face. In the days leading to an unexpected gallery showcase of her work, fear knotted in her belly. What would stepping into the light mean for her, especially with a storm brewing between her and Mark? The sincerity of her connection with Ava stirred a longing in her heart, yet it trembled at the edges of uncertainty. As the exhibition approached and the air thickened with emotional weight, she stood teetering at a precipice, questioning everything. A canvas still blank, yet filled with unspoken dreams ready to be unveiled. Would she find the fortitude to break free, or would the cocoon of fear keep her from embracing her true potential? Emily woke early the next morning, the delicate threads of emotion from the previous night still tangled in her mind. Her first instinct was to pick up her brush, to channel the brewing storm within her onto the canvas. But today wasn't just another day. It was the day of her gallery showcase. She felt electrified by a mix of dread and anticipation as she glanced at her sketches spread across the table. They weren't just lines and colors. They represented the unknown paths of her life that lay ahead. The sunlight filtered through the window, illuminating the sketches. Each one was a different vision of herself. Some reflected the artist she wanted to be. Others hinted at the person she feared she would become. a small cog in a corporate machine, forgetting her dreams while watching Ava flourish. This juxtaposition stirred something deep within her. Did she have the courage to step forward for both her and Ava? Mark's announcement about the promotion loomed over her thoughts like a dark cloud. The unethical practices she had overheard weighed heavily on her conscience. Perhaps it was time to confront Mark. Could she be the catalyst for change within their small universe? Her gut churned at the thought, a mix of determination and apprehension flooding her senses. After a quick morning routine, she chose to don a bold red dress that matched her fervor for transformation. Standing in front of the mirror, she practiced her words. "Mark, I need to talk to you about Ava. She has a creative spirit that deserves nurturing." Each repetition felt more empowering, but the vulnerability of the confrontation gnawed at her resolve. As she prepared for the exhibit, thoughts whirled in her mind. The showcase wasn't simply a professional milestone. It was a definitive moment of self-assertion, a chance to reconnect with her artistic identity. Would anyone even care? The tap of fear against the edges of her confidence started to fade as the hours slipped by, replaced by a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could inspire change not only in herself but also in the world around her. Later that evening, at the gallery, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Elegant guests, dressed to the nines, fluttered about, their laughter filling the air. Emily stood at the far end of the room, her heart pounding in rhythm to the soft strokes of jazz. As her gaze drifted over her displayed works, she felt clumps of shame and fear dissolve into exhilaration. Each piece was pulsating with the essence of her journey, her struggles, her visions, her hopes. Mark appeared, dressed in a tailored suit, his presence commanding and magnetic. As he moved through the crowd, he stopped to appreciate a few brushstrokes of Emily's paintings, a flicker of recognition dawning in his eyes. She wanted to seize this moment, not only to impress him, but to assert her own value. Their eyes locked for a moment, and she could feel her resolve solidifying. But the gravity of the impending conversation hung over her, heavy with implications. Gathering her courage, she approached him, her heart racing. "Mark," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I need to talk to you about Ava." The words tumbled out, each one biting at the intention behind them. As his brow furrowed, she wondered if she had made a mistake, but she pushed past the doubt. It was this moment that could define her, not just as a babysitter, but as a powerful artist and an advocate for Ava's potential. The tension mounted in their exchange as they spoke, her face flushed with the thrill of confronting her fears. Would he listen, or would he dismiss her? The urgency in her heart mirrored the pulse of the jazz, creating an entwined rhythm of emotions. In the depths of the conversation, as their voices rose over the clamor of the gallery, she felt the weight of his decisions looming. With every word, the universe around them shifted. Maybe this is just the beginning, she thought. But little did she know, their exchange would reveal undeniable truths, sending ripples through the fabric of their lives. What awaited her as she wore her heart on her sleeve? As the night unfolded, so did the unexpected twists of fate, and Emily was just about to discover the power she truly held. The encounter with Mark shifted something deep with Emily, igniting a fire of courage she had long kept dim. As their conversation broke through the bustling sounds of the gallery, she realized the power of her voice, an unfamiliar sensation wrapping around her heart, not as an artist unsure of herself, but as someone with genuine conviction. When he finally relented, his expression easing into contemplation rather than dismissal, she felt a rush of triumph surge through her. "Emily, I appreciate your concern for Ava," he said, each word a careful balancing act. "But the reality of our work environment is challenging. We need results, and creative nurturing often feels secondary." His insistence struck a chord of annoyance within her, but she held her ground. The truth of Ava's potential pressed hotly against her tongue, a sensation she had almost forgotten. What if nurturing creativity leads to results that far outweigh mere numbers? Ava isn't just a project, she's a person, a well-rounded, talented artist waiting for acknowledgement. Her voice grew stronger, resonating with an authenticity she hadn't anticipated discovering. Mark regarded her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the air between them thickened, suspended in a fragile tension. In that instant, the walls of their professional roles seemed to crack. Suddenly, the gallery lights dimmed for the first of several speeches scheduled that evening, pulling Emily from their tense standoff. As guests turned to listen, she felt a sense of urgency. This wasn't merely an art showcase, it was an opportunity to speak to the very heart of her truth. Pushing through the mingling crowd, she found herself standing beside the microphone, her instinct guiding her forward. The hush that fell over the room ignited a spark in her. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate creativity," she began, her voice steady despite the quickening pulse within her. "Art has the power to transform, heal, and most importantly, to encourage us to be brave in our life choices." The words flowed from her like paint upon the canvas, each stroke vibrant with emotion and intent. She spoke of Ava, weaving a personal narrative into her address. She detailed what followers might perceive as mere babysitting, those quiet moments filled with imagination and exploration, and framed it instead as a deeply nurturing relationship. As she spoke, Emily could see Mark's neutral facade waver. She dared not look away, focusing instead on the energy she was cultivating within her audience. This was about more than showing her artwork. It was about illuminating an identity she refused to suppress any longer. The applause that followed felt like a new dawn breaking on her horizon, and Emily felt lighter. She had taken a stand, not only for herself, but for her relationship with Ava, who deserved a champion in her corner. Yet, even in that exhilarated moment, doubt crept in. Would her words truly inspire change within Mark? Would he take actionable steps to support Ava's budding creativity? The room buzzed with chit-chat, but Emily remained mentally anchored to her commitment, questioning how far she could push this newfound empowerment. As she moved back through the gallery, her heart still racing, she caught sight of Mark seated, locked in conversation with a few executives. The usual air of confidence he exuded felt corrupted. They were discussing numbers, projections, and targets. Just as she began to feel the weight of impending defeat, his eyes locked on hers, a flicker of recognition igniting between them. This time, she didn't flinch. Instead, Emily straightened her shoulders, determination swirling within her. Could this audacity evolve into a more profound shift? One that realigned priorities not only for Ava, but for herself in the process? The thought stilled her breath momentarily. How would she navigate the waters of corporate culture, elevating creativity amid commercial demands? With each brushstroke from that evening, Emily knew she stood not just as an artist unveiling her work, but as a fierce advocate for authenticity in a realm that often bordered on the insincere. But just how far could she push this newfound resolve before it pushed back? What awaited her amid the echoing applause and hidden challenges ahead? Would she be brave enough to take the next step? Emily's resolve crystallized as she navigated through the throngs of admirers and critics. Each congratulatory comment felt like a stepping stone, yet the shadow of uncertainty loomed over her, a reminder that the exhilaration of the night could easily dissipate under the weight of reality. The encounters of that evening had unveiled something vital within her, a spark she wasn't ready to extinguish. As she stepped outside, the cool night air enveloped her. She leaned against the gallery's brick wall, allowing her thoughts to articulate themselves into a coherent narrative. There had to be a way to weave her artistic pursuits with the nurturing environment she fervently believed in. What if she could create a space, even on a smaller scale, that allowed creativity to flourish without suffocating under corporate demands? Contemplating this, Emily envisioned an art mentorship program. It could pivot around young talents like Ava, where creativity wasn't merely a metric, but a fundamental pillar. Yet the initiative faced a fundamental dilemma: funding. Would the gallery or Mark's corporate structure genuinely back a seemingly altruistic venture? She recalled Mark's pragmatic mindset and the cold world of numbers he often inhabited. Just then, a text message buzzed in her pocket, breaking the current of her thoughts. It was from Ava. "I hope you're proud of yourself. You were amazing tonight." A wave of warmth flooded over her. Ava was not just a project. She embodied everything Emily was fighting for. If this could ignite a lasting change for her, then for other young artists as well, it would be worth the battle against the tides of corporate indifference. Her pulse quickened at the prospect, but alongside it emerged the familiar tightening of doubt. What if her ideas were too far-fetched? What if she became a pariah for challenging the status quo? The support network required to launch such an initiative felt monumental. Who would believe in an underdog artist advocating for nurturing creativity in a metrics-driven world? Emily took a deep breath and decided then and there that she would share her plans with Mark directly. Maybe persuading him to see worth beyond the bottom line was precisely the challenge she needed to face. She could not only advocate for Ava, but for herself as well. This wasn't about just reclaiming her voice. This was about amplifying the voices of others, ensuring they too possessed the space to thrive. Though a wave of anxiety washed over her, she couldn't ignore the exhilaration bubbling under the surface. It was a crucial decision, one that tested her willingness to confront authority. On her way back to the gallery, each step felt laden with purpose, the world around her blurring into a vivid tapestry of potential. She had experienced the power of her words. Now she needed to embody that power in her professional life further. As she re-entered the gallery, she spotted Mark standing off to the side, his demeanor a mix of hospitality and formality. The memory of their earlier conversation brushed against her mind, reigniting her conviction. She approached him, heart pounding, a drumbeat urging her on. "Mark," she began, voice steady yet vulnerable, "I have some ideas about an initiative that could benefit not just Ava, but others like her." His eyes narrowed slightly, clenched into an expression both curious and cautious. The challenge she had set in motion loomed before them, heavy with unspoken yet electrifying tension. Would he embrace this continuation of their earlier dialogue, or would he retreat back to his familiar world of numbers and projections? The moment hung in the air between them, filled with uncharted possibilities. Emily felt all of her courage, nurtured through that evening, ignite into a blazing resolve. It was time to discover if her audacity could carve a pathway not just for herself, but for a future brimming with artistic freedom. What would Mark say? Would he see the spark of potential in her dream, or would she be left standing alone, grappling with an impossible challenge? The outcome hung precariously in the balance, setting the stage for the true test of her newfound initiative. Emily felt the seconds stretching as she stood before Mark, her heart steadying into a rhythm of determination. The tension in the room seemed almost palpable, vibrating between them, demanding a reaction. His gaze remained fixed on her, and in that stillness she resolved to push past her fears, to summon the bravado that had ignited her vision of mentorship. "Mark, I've been thinking about an art mentorship program," she continued, the words cascading forward with urgency and clarity. "It wouldn't just help young talents like Ava, it could reshape how we nurture creativity in a corporate environment. We need to peel back the layers of metrics that define success in art." She noted the flicker of interest in his eyes, but wariness lingered there too. "I understand the financial implications, but consider the long-term gain. Investing in artist development could position the gallery as a pioneer in supporting innovation." He crossed his arms, clearly weighing her proposition. Emily, I appreciate your passion, but you know better than anyone that resources are limited. How will you fund this? Talent alone won't keep the gallery afloat. Doubt seeped back momentarily, but she grounded herself. If she faltered now, it would signal weakness. I could start small. Local businesses, individual sponsors. There must be interest in cultivating community investment in the arts. Social responsibility is becoming a value proposition for many companies. We could leverage that. His eyes narrowed skeptically as he processed her response. You think that's enough to get this off the ground? What are you proposing we do? The crux of it hit her then, a realization she had been subconsciously avoiding. This endeavor wasn't just about funding. It was about reshaping a culture that often regarded art as secondary. She had to embody her passion, not only for her ideas, but for the community of artists waiting in the wings. I want to curate a series of workshops, she articulated with growing fervor. Bring in established artists as mentors to foster direct engagement with aspiring ones. Just imagine the collaborations, the opportunities. If we invest in their growth now, we'll build a reputation that transforms how people view this gallery. Mark's brow furrowed, lost in thoughts shrouded in ambiguity. And if it doesn't work, if we pour funding into a project that yields minimal return, you understand my position here. Of course I do, Emily replied, countering his objections with steely resolve. But isn't the risk worth taking? Sometimes the greatest rewards come from pursuing the most unorthodox paths. If we don't try, we're dimming the light of potential. A silence enveloped them, the air thick with reality. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was her gatekeeper. Each decision he made could either shackle or liberate her vision. Her resolve teetered. She could hear the echoes of doubt from those who had discouraged her before, softly questioning whether she belonged here. I'm not asking for blind faith, she pressed, fighting to keep her voice steady. I'm asking to explore possibilities that could not only benefit Ava, but ripple through the entire artistic community. Mark finally uncrossed his arms, and in that moment, a tentative curiosity seemed to course through him. What you're proposing is ambitious. If we proceed, you'd have to take the lead. This would be your project. The enormity of it struck her, yet exhilaration flooded through her veins. She was at a threshold that could redefine her career, a business opportunity to marry her passion with a professional directive. I'll prove it's worth the investment, Mark. I won't just dream. I'll execute. All right, let's outline your proposal further. I need more than an idea. I need a plan. As reality settled back in, Emily felt both trepidation and a formidable rush of potential. This was merely the beginning. Creating a plan meant she would have to confront even more challenges, gather support, and build something from the ground up. But there was something electrifying about the notion of stepping into leadership, about painting her vision into reality. The road ahead would not be easy, but could it be what she had always longed for? A single purpose that melded her artistic spirit with her professional ambition. As she left the discussion, adrenaline surged within her. It was time to craft a compelling narrative, gather her allies, and build a foundation for the future she envisioned. What else would she uncover about her abilities in this relentless pursuit? Could the crossroads she stood at lead to not only a nurturing environment for others, but to a fuller realization of her own potential? With each stride she took, a quiet determination unfurled within her. A sense that she was destined to elevate not just her own journey, but that of every artist waiting to break free. Emily sat at her desk, the remnants of her conversation with Mark still seeping into her thoughts. Ideas swirled in her mind, each one more vibrant than the last, and the excitement for her mentorship program began to shape itself into a tangible outline. She reached for her notebook, scribbling down every detail she envisioned. Workshops, guest artists, collaboration opportunities, everything felt possible. Yet uncertainty nagged at her, whispering reminders of her previous failures at convincing others of her vision. Each time her pen hit the paper, waves of adrenaline surged, but with that energy came a formidable trepidation. Was she ready to lead such an initiative? Doubts crept in as she considered the logistics. She needed to create a budget, enlist artists willing to participate, and develop a communication strategy to draw in potential sponsors. It was daunting, yet her resolve strengthened the more she wrote. This was her moment to step into the spotlight, not as an assistant, but as a leader. The next day, determined to gather her resources, Emily reached out to Ava, the young artist she had in mind for the program. Ava's raw talent had always inspired Emily. She needed to learn from that fresh perspective. Over coffee, they discussed ideas and aspirations. Ava, wide-eyed and enthusiastic, threw herself into the conversation. "What if we included an online component," she suggested, "so more people can engage with the artists from different places? We could build a platform that extends beyond the gallery." Emily felt a flash of gratitude, recognizing an unexpected collaboration blooming before her. "That's brilliant, Ava. Online workshops could expand our reach." Returning to her office, Emily began to map out this new direction, her mind churning with potential. This program was evolving into something that mirrored her dreams more accurately than she had imagined. Yet she knew this was just the beginning. She needed to prepare herself for the inevitable resistance. There would be critics, challenges, and failures. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's determination bore fruit. She secured a meeting with a local businesswoman known for supporting the arts. As they talked, Emily reached a pivotal moment in her pitch. "Investing in this mentorship program isn't just charity, it's an opportunity," she asserted, recalling the many times she witnessed talented artists sidelined due to lack of resources. "You could be part of something that changes how we value art and engage with emerging voices." The conversation flowed more naturally than she anticipated, and the businesswoman agreed to support the initial costs of the first workshop. Relief rippled through Emily, but the implication of responsibility began to settle. She needed to deliver value to her investor. As momentum grew, Emily assembled a small team of artists and volunteers. Each meeting buzzed with excitement, and ideas bounced around the room like brushstrokes on canvas. Yet, cracks of insecurity began to emerge. As roles shifted and expanded, her confidence wavered. Was she capable of managing a team? She replayed moments when her decisiveness had faltered, when feedback from Mark had echoed in her ears. In quiet moments, she questioned her authority. "What if I'm not cut out for this?" she murmured one evening as she sat alone in her office, overwhelmed by the weight of her ambitions. But a flicker of resilience refused to extinguish. She had made tangible progress, and that mattered more than past hesitations. The day of the first workshop approached, and anxiety threatened to derail her progress. Would anyone show up? Would the artists feel she had wasted their time? She hardly slept the night before, pacing the floors, rehearsing her opening words. That morning, as she stepped into the gallery, the sight of the setup, the easels, the fresh canvases, the eager faces, ignited something deep within her. She took a breath, scanned the room, and focused on the task at hand. This wasn't just about imparting knowledge. It was about creating a communal fire that burned for innovation. Her heart raced with anticipation and resolve. But another nagging feeling lingered, a hint that perhaps the challenge ahead was far greater than she could foresee. Could she truly transform not just herself, but the entire culture of her artistic environment? With every passing moment, Emily was set to face the ultimate test of her leadership. As the door opened and participants streamed in, she realized the true depth of what this program represented, a critical threshold over which she was about to step. Would she rise to the occasion and assert herself as the leader they needed? Would the vision spark into reality or extinguish under pressure? The turning point was upon her. Emily inhaled sharply, forcing herself to abandon the whirlpool of uncertainty that threatened to drown her enthusiasm. She took her place at the front of the gallery, heart thumping in rhythm with the quiet murmur of anticipation from the attendees. This was it. Everything she had been striving for culminated in this moment.
And despite her fears, she was determined to convey her vision. "Welcome, everyone." Her voice, though shaky at first, found strength as she spoke. "Today marks the beginning of our journey, a flourishing intersection of creativity and mentorship." Words poured out of her, igniting curiosity and admiration around the room. She noticed nods and smiles, and with each enthusiastic response, her confidence swelled. As Emily outlined the objectives of the mentorship program, explaining how collaboration could redefine local artistry, she couldn't help but feel that glimmer of hope. She shared Ava's idea about the online component, emphasizing the potential impact it could have. Artists and participants scribbled down notes, their engagement palpable. But as the opening session concluded, a familiar discomfort nudged at the edges of her mind. What if there was an unforeseen complication? Despite the energy buzzing in the room, she couldn't ignore that the weight of her plan extended beyond mere attendance. It hinged on the expectation to deliver results. After the first workshop, a predominant thought began dreadfully weaving itself into her psyche. The workshop hadn't just been a success, but what followed was pivotal in defining whether this initiative would truly thrive. Designated breakout sessions began, each led by a member of her team. Taking a step back, she watched her peers dive into discussions, and a sense of satisfaction flickered within her. She felt it. They were not just participants. They were engaged collaborators. However, her relief was short-lived when she overheard one of her volunteers speaking with palpable discontent. "I wonder if Emily really knows how to pull this off. It feels like she's just winging it," they remarked, unaware of Emily's proximity. The words pierced through her fresh sense of achievement, leaving a bitter taste of doubt. Did they truly believe she was merely improvising? Steeling her resolve, Emily approached them. "Is there something we should discuss?" she asked, attempting to maintain a calm exterior. The volunteers shifted awkwardly, their confidence faltering under her steady gaze. I just meant that it feels a bit chaotic," they stammered. "Like, can we really pull this off?" The direct confrontation unraveled her carefully constructed veneer of composure. Although she wanted to recoil under the sting of uncertainty, she engaged. "This chaos can lead us to something transformative, but I need everyone to trust the process, to be bold." Thus commenced an impromptu group brainstorming session, a reprisal of creative energy aimed at addressing their concerns. As ideas flowed and constructive feedback emerged, Emily unearthed a glimmer of hope within the chaos. The more they collaborated, the more clarity came to view, and soon discussions shifted from skepticism to innovation. Later that evening, shattered but energized, Emily returned home. Each reflection on the day clashed violently with her fears. Could she genuinely establish a long-term program? The responsibilities born from leadership felt heavier by the hour. She couldn't ignore her self-doubt, but neither could she dismiss that spark of realization. She was growing, learning to navigate the fortified landscape of the art community. As she fingered through her notes, a new thought crystallized. Perhaps it wasn't about perfect execution, but rather about evolution through mistakes and growth alongside the artists she sought to uplift. That night, sleep eluded her once again. Just as she began to succumb to exhaustion, a notion struck her, a shift in perspective. What if mentorship was less about imposing knowledge and more about nurturing a culture of resilience? That reckless, self-doubting flicker inside her began to ignite into something powerful and undeniable. Ahead of her stretched a new purpose, strengthened not only her leadership skills, but the community's shared voice. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would unveil yet another layer of this journey, an opportunity for clarity amidst the chaos. What awaited her, both in our
Artists and in herself, was something only experience could reveal. But that experience, she sensed, would demand a confrontation with someone else entirely, the very roots of her insecurities. As the next day beckoned with its uncertainties, the fundamental question lingered. Whom could she rely on to challenge the greater demons, the ones festering quietly within? Morning light filtered through Emily's window, casting stripes across her desk cluttered with sketches and half-finished plans. She squinted at the bright new day, both weary and resolute. Today wasn't just another day. It was an opportunity to confront the lurking doubts gnawing at her confidence. She had come too far to allow a few stray words to unravel her purpose. As she prepared for another round of mentorship sessions, Emily's thoughts spiraled back to the volunteers' whispered critique. How could she harness that skepticism and turn it into motivation? She recalled the brainstorming session, how collaborative dialogue birthed new ideas and solutions. She needed to channel that energy again. With a determined heart, she opted to initiate a workshop centered around vulnerability and growth. It was a personal topic for her, but if she wanted her artists to embrace their own uncertainties, she needed to model that bravery. She crafted an outline, thinking through the words she'd share, the strategies that would encourage others to acknowledge their fears. The gallery buzzed with life as artists gathered. Emily stood at the forefront, tethered by her desire to create a safe space. She opened the session with a personal story about a past failure, the moment when she first hesitated to pursue her passion for art. The room quieted, eyes on her, and for the first time she felt the weight of connection. "I wanted it to be perfect," she admitted, a sense of vulnerability washing over her as she spoke. "Instead, I learned that perfection is often a disguise for fear, fear of judgment, fear of failure. I realized that embracing those fears opened doors I never knew existed." Her words resonated through the audience, a tangible shift occurring, as silence faded into murmurs of agreement. Emily watched as her colleagues began to share their own stories, slowly peeling back the layers of their insecurity. Laughter mingled with tears, revealing authenticity that deepened their collaboration, forging unbreakable bonds amidst the chaos. But as the day progressed, Emily sensed mounting challenges lurking in the background. One artist, a prolific painter she admired, remained withdrawn, dismissive of the concepts being discussed. Their arms crossed tightly, they seemed immune to the collective vulnerability radiating around them. The feeling clawed at Emily. Was she failing to connect with everyone? Had she overstepped in promoting vulnerability? The internal dialogue buzzed incessantly, demanding to be addressed. So she made the choice to confront the situation head-on. "Can I ask what's on your mind?" she said, walking toward the artist, her voice steady but light. "You seem to carry a different perspective." Their gaze darted toward her, hesitant yet intrigued. "I just don't see the point," the artist muttered, frustration simmering beneath the surface. "It feels naive to think vulnerability will inspire better art." Emily took a breath, feeling her heart speed up. She recognized this moment as a pivotal juncture, not only for her, but for the artist too. What if the act of creating is, in itself, an inherently vulnerable endeavor? She replied, carefully choosing her words. Sharing our stories, our failings, it's what connects us as artists. This journey is less about the end product and more about who we become in the process. The room fell silent, their attention leading back to the artist. She watched as their face softened, a conflict flickering in their eyes. Emily's words were a mirror, reflecting their own fears and unspoken doubts. As the tension hung thick in the air, she felt a rush of clarity, realizing that this confrontation was more than just an interaction. It was a test of her leadership. Emma needed to embrace her evolving role, not just as a facilitator, but as an empathetic guide. And this artist's response could mark a turning point. The conversation seemed poised on a precipice, the outcome uncertain. Emily wondered, would vulnerability transform this artist's perspective, or would they remain ensconced in their skepticism? As her pulse quickened, she sensed a deeper meaning woven into this very moment,
a chance to blend conflict and understanding into a creative spark that could drive both her and her peers forward. And just as the artist opened their mouth to speak, a soft knock echoed through the gallery, interrupting the charged atmosphere and setting a new, unforeseen course. What awaited with this interruption could unravel everything she had built, or strengthen her resolve in ways she never anticipated. As the soft knock resonated, the room's tension splintered. Emily felt a surge of uncertainty wash over her. The moment she had fought so hard to create now hung precariously in the balance. The artist stood before her, on the verge of revealing something monumental, yet the interruption loomed ominously. "Just a moment," she called out, glancing back at the door. She was torn between confronting this unexpected visitor and maintaining the fragile connection she had begun to forge with the artist. The artist's brow furrowed, impatience flickering across their face. Emily could sense that their openness was a delicate flame, one that could be snuffed out if she faltered. "Do you want to go ahead?" the artist asked, voice edged with skepticism, arms still crossed tightly. "No," she said firmly, exhaling slowly. "I'm in this with you. Let's see what this is about." With a nod, she walked to the door, her determination rekindled. As she opened the door, a gust of fresh air swept into the gallery, a reminder of the world outside. Standing before her was a short man, impeccably dressed, a briefcase clasped in one hand. "Excuse me, is this the art workshop?" he asked, his voice surprisingly warm, yet tinged with an air of authority.
"Yes," Emily answered, curiosity piqued. "Do you have a question or perhaps a contribution?" "I'm actually looking for someone to help me with a project," he said, glancing over her shoulder. "I manage a small gallery downtown, and I'm in need of a creative consultant, someone who understands the challenges artists face. I couldn't help but overhear your workshop. It sounds like you're guiding them through that." While the artist behind her remained skeptical, Emily felt a ripple of excitement. "What kind of project?" she asked, keen to explore this unexpected opportunity. The man stepped into the gallery, and their conversation shifted to practical details. The vision he had for his gallery, the kind of artists he wished to promote, and the role he envisioned for Emily. As he spoke, she could feel her confidence layering upon itself, like paint thickening on a canvas. This wasn't just about artistry, but about building a bridge between vulnerability and success. "I admire your commitment to fostering a safe space for creatives," he said. "It's rare to find someone who blends empathy with enterprise. I believe you could bring something unique to our community." The artist's expression shifted, their defensiveness melting slightly. Emily's heart raced as she absorbed his words, feeling the gravity of the potential change swirling around her. This could be the opportunity she needed to prove that vulnerability was indeed a strength, not just an artistic tool. "I admire your commitment to fostering a safe space for creatives," he said. "It's rare to find someone who blends empathy with enterprise. I believe you could bring something unique to our community." The artist's expression shifted, their defensiveness melting slightly. Emily's heart raced as she absorbed his words, feeling the gravity of the potential change swirling around her. This could be the opportunity she needed to prove that vulnerability was indeed a strength, not just an artistic tool. "I'd be interested," she replied, mind whirling with strategies to align her values with this new role. As they exchanged contact information, Emily worked through the implications this opportunity could hold, not just for her career, but also for her journey as a leader in the artistic realm. With the man's departure, she turned back to the workshop, curiosity blending with concern. The artist, still guarded, now exhibited a flicker of intrigue and uncertainty. Emily seized the moment, returning to their previous thread. "Maybe vulnerability isn't about being naive," she said. "Perhaps it's about being courageous enough to step into partnerships that can take us further than we thought possible. This invitation, it shows that the art we create resonates beyond our confines. It's a call to impact the world." With each carefully chosen phrase, she felt the emotional stakes rising. There was a newfound depth to the artist's expression, as if the barriers they had erected were beginning to crack. They regarded Emily with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity, prompting her to dig deeper into that connection, knowing fully well that the real test lay ahead. As the session came to a close, the atmosphere shifted, the energy charged with anticipation. Emily understood there was more at stake now than just her own journey. She was forging a path that potentially linked diverse creative voices. But was she truly ready for this new role that demanded both strength and vulnerability? And as she pondered the transformations unfolding, an unexpected voice echoed in her mind. What if the success she sought meant confronting her own fears head-on once more? The clarity she had gained felt bittersweet, and the moment of truth felt insistently near. Emily stood in front of the wide-open studio window, light flooding in, illuminating the remnants of her journey. After months of struggle and self-discovery, she now felt a renewed sense of purpose. The gallery project had become a catalyst, pushing her past boundaries she once deemed insurmountable. Today was not just any day. It was the launch of her mentorship program, an embodiment of everything she had fought for. With meticulous precision, she arranged the canvases and supplies, ensuring everything was perfect for her students. Each brush she placed symbolized a road she had traveled, filled with obstacles, self-doubt, and triumph. She glanced at the attendance sheet. Each name represented a bright spark of potential waiting to be ignited. As people trickled in to fill the studio, whispers of excited anticipation vibrated through the room. She could feel their energy mixing with her own, a symphony of aspirations. Uncharacteristically, instead of the typically overwhelming nerves that gripped her before a big event, she felt an unwavering confidence. She had learned that vulnerability was a strength, a doorway to connection and authenticity. "Welcome, everyone," she declared, as she positioned herself confidently in the front of the room. "I'm excited to kick off this program, and I can't wait to see how we'll grow together." With each passing minute, conversations blossomed, laughter echoed, and ideas flowed freely. Emily took the reins, guiding them through reflections on creativity and the personal challenges they each faced. There was a profound sense of camaraderie as they shared stories that resonated deeply, stories of ambition, frustration, failures, and breakthroughs. The hour flew by, each moment alive with breakthroughs and revelations. Emily noticed how engaged her peers had become, their hesitance replaced with courage as they offered suggestions and feedback. During a group brainstorming session, she leaned in, urging them to explore vulnerabilities and celebrate the mistakes they had made along the way. "Embrace the chaos. It's where the magic happens," she encouraged, her voice steady with conviction. As she observed their faces transform from uncertainty to determination, she felt her heart swell with pride, not only for what she had built, but for the artists blossoming in front of her. Within each of them lay incredible potential, and she was not only their facilitator, but also a fellow traveler on this journey. Days turned to weeks, and the program flourished, garnering attention from various local businesses and media outlets. Emily secured partnerships that augmented her vision, creating workshops that resonated with a diverse range of young talent. Each new collaborator acknowledged her leadership, some echoing praises she couldn't have imagined receiving a year prior. One evening, as she prepared for another workshop, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Mark, standing at the door with a smile. "I came to see what you've created. I heard great things." The sincerity in his gaze made her heart flutter. "I'm glad you're here," she said, the warmth of their shared connection rekindling memories of her initial doubts. As they walked through the gallery, she explained her initiatives and the growth of the program. Recognition sparked in Mark's eyes as he took in the vibrant atmosphere that now surrounded them. "Emily," he said with palpable respect,
It's remarkable to see how far you've come. You've transformed this place." A sense of validation washed over her, grounding her in the knowledge that her professional transformation had materialized before her. No longer shackled by self-doubt or the expectations of others, she had grown into a figure of empowerment. That night, as she lay in bed reflecting on her journey, a smile spread across her face. She had not only achieved her goals, but she had also forged a path for others, providing aspiring artists with a platform to succeed. Her heart echoed with fulfillment, knowing her purpose was aligned with creative freedom and mentorship. The metamorphosis was complete. Emily had transcended from a troubled artist to a recognized mentor, channeling her journey into a beacon for others. While she celebrated this achievement, she was also aware that growth was continuous. She was ready for the next challenge, embracing the future with an open heart. Now, every brushstroke was not just about paint, it was about courage. This was her moment, a standing testament of individual transformation that paved the way for countless others. And so, Emily took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. Now, if you've felt inspired by Emily's transformation and want to witness more emotional journeys, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support and keep up with stories of overcoming adversity. Leave a like now if you've found value in these tales. Your engagement feeds the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and theories about Emily's journey and share what resonates with you most. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let's amplify the power of personal growth.